Hi, I'm Pritesh from Saleshandy, and you're here because you want more meetings on your calendar. Saleshandy helps you find your ideal leads, reach them across email, calls, and WhatsApp, and manage your pipeline all from one place. Let's start by finding leads for your business. So, this is the lead finder. Right now, it's empty. And what you are building here is a list of people who actually fit who you sell to. The goal is a right list, not a big one. Normally, you would click through the filters one at a time. Job title, then industry, then headcount, and then location. Here, you just describe who you want in Sage AI search. So I'll type it in the way I would say it to a colleague. CEOs at Series A AI companies in the US using HubSpot 10 to 50 employees. And just watch the left-hand side while it runs. Job title, industry, funding stage, location, tech stack, headcount, 6 filters, and I did not touch any of them. Sage read that sentence and built the list for you. And that's running across 850 million contacts, one of the biggest databases in the industry. One sentence, about 8 seconds, and here's your list. And you can just change anything it built. So if I want founders in here as well as CEOs, I add them and the count updates as I go. There's more you can layer on. Seniority, department, years in the role. The last one's very useful because somebody 3 months ago into a new job is usually still changing things. And decision maker, switch that on and you are only reaching out to the people who can say yes. On the company side, technologies. We have already said HubSpot there. So every company on this list is actually running a CRM we integrate with. And that gives you something specific to open with. Employee count by job function. Not how big the company is, but how big the sales team is. Because a 100-people company with 2 salespeople has a different problem to one with 30. Revenue and funding if you sell by company size. And lookalikes, you give it a company that already a good customer and you would find more like them. Then signals. A filter tells you somebody fits. A signal tells you they got the problem right now. So money is in the bank and the pressure to grow. Are they hiring salespeople? Then they're already trying to solve what we solve. And watch what that does to the count. 1200 people just became 300. And it gives you something real to open with. So you raised last month and you are hiring 3 SDRs instead of I help companies scale their outbound. Now the contact details. I click reveal and have a look what's happening underneath. It goes through provider after provider in order until one's come back with a result and it's verified. And that's called waterfall enrichment. And it matters for match rate. Any single provider misses a chunk of your list. Running them one after another means fewer gaps. Every one of them is verified at the point you reveal it, not months ago. And if none of the providers can verify it, you are not charged. No credit taken for a contact it can't stand behind. And if there's a no work email, it looks for a personal one as a fallback. And that's useful for the founders in smaller companies where often that's the only email address that exists. Once they are on your list, you can enrich them further. More data points on the person and for the company. And we will use this directly when we write the sequences. So pull in more than you think you need. Save the search itself too, because this is a set of filters is your ideal customer profiles written down. Run it again the next month and you get whoever is new in the list. And if you already have a list, upload it and it will enrich what you have got. Verified emails, phone numbers, company lists, filled against the data you already have. Now you have a list of 300 people, every contact verified and every one of them there for a reason. So now you have got your list. Now the obvious thing to do here is to connect your work email and start sending. But I would ask you not to do that. Think about everything your main domain actually carries. Your invoices, your support replies, your every conversation with customer who already is paying you. If a cold campaign goes wrong, all of that goes down with it. And you don't get the reputation back in a week, it takes months. So we are not going to touch the main domain at all. Instead, we will send them from separate domains that still look like you, while keeping your real domain out of the firing line. So let's go and buy them. And Saleshandy walks you through this in 5 steps. The first one is choosing the plan. Here it asks which provider you want the mailboxes to run on: Google, Microsoft, or Azure. Google and Microsoft work the way you expect. Azure is a little different because you get a dedicated tenant for every domain and the mailboxes themselves come free. That's worth knowing if you are buying at any real scale. I'll go with Google here. Next, it asks you how you want to be billed. You can choose quarterly if you want to keep the option to cancel, annual flexi if you still want the flexibility but prefer annual billing, or annual fixed where you can commit for 12 months and get the lowest price per mailbox. And notice that it's pricing two things separately: the domain, which runs for a year, and the mailboxes, which run on whichever cycle you choose. I'll stay on quarterly. Step 2 is the domain names themselves, and all you have to do is to type in the keyword. I don't need to add .com or any other extension because Saleshandy handles them for you. And then I can just filter which extensions I want to see. I want something that a real person would believe. I will take these 3, and anything that I picked stays in the cart so I can search completely different keyword and keep adding domains without losing what I have already selected. Step 3 is where the mailboxes get created, and we do this one domain at a time. For the first domain, I would enter a first name and a last name, and Saleshandy generates different address formats from that: first name at, first initial dot, surname at, full name at, and so on. If none of them feel right, I can generate few more. And if I've already have a specific address in mind, I can add that myself too. Then I move on to the second domain and the third and repeat the same process. 3 on each domain gives me 9 mailboxes, and I have not had to type out full address once. Step 4 is the sender identity. Here I add a photo and a proper name to each mailbox. It sounds like a small detail, but think about what you are actually asking for. You are asking a stranger to reply to you, so it helps to look like an actual person. And finally, step 5 is reviewing everything and buying it. 3 domains, 9 mailboxes, all itemized in one payment. You can exactly see what you are actually paying for before you click, so there is no surprise at the end. And now watch this part, because this is actually what costs a people entire day. SPF, DKIM and DMARC all setting themselves automatically. Now if those letters mean nothing to you, that's completely fine. All you really need to know is that these are the things Google and Outlook use to check that you are who you say you are. Get them wrong and you can just end up in spam. Normally you would be sitting inside your DNS settings, copying records across, hoping you entered everything correctly, and sometimes finding out 2 weeks later that you did not. Here, it configures itself. Because Saleshandy owns the domain, the mailboxes, the sending, it can handle the setup for you. And if you already have mailboxes of your own, you can connect those as well: Google, Outlook, or any SMTP. Now here's another thing worth knowing. Every plan comes with unlimited email account. Most tools charge you per inbox per seat, which means the more you want to send, the more you pay. Here's that's simply not how it works. You can add as many mailboxes as you need, so the domains are bought and the mailboxes are ready. The next thing we do is to turn on the email warm-up. Warm-up is actually pretty simple. Your mailboxes start having real conversations in the background, sending, opening, and replying to each other. And the reason that matters is because Google and Outlook are watching. They want to see an account behaving like a real person long before it starts sending real campaigns. Now, email warm-up gives them exactly that, and it's included with every plan at no extra cost. A lot of tools will sell this as a separate subscription. Alongside that, you have got a ramp-up. So instead of sending 200 emails on a day 1, your volume increases gradually a little more each day. Because going from 0 to full volume overnight is one of the quickest ways to get your brand new domain flagged. And once you are sending, Inbox Radar shows you where your emails are actually landing. It's primary, promotions, or spam. Now, every tool out there will give you an open rate, but the open rate can't answer the question you actually care about, which is, did the email even reach them? Inbox Radar can, and each mailbox gets its own health score. So if one account starts slipping, you can just pull it out early before it drags the other 8 accounts down with it. Now, one honest thing before we move on. Warm-up takes about 2 weeks. There's no shortcut around that. And anyone tells you otherwise is setting you up for bounce rate you really won't enjoy. So turn it on today and let it run quietly in the background while you work on everything else. And that's really the point. By the time your emails are ready to go out, your mailboxes are ready to send them. So let's go write those emails. Right. So now let's build the actual campaign. A sequence is simply a series of steps. One email goes out, then the gap, then the next one, then another gap. And that's really all it is. And you don't have to start from a completely blank page because there's a co-pilot built with it. I tell it who I'm writing to and what I'm offering, and it gives me the first draft. Now let me be straight with you about this. What comes back is a starting point, not something you should send as in. It gets the basic shape right and it saves you from staring at an empty screen. But the part that makes it sound like you actually looked this person up, that's still your job. Now let me show you what I would change. The draft opens with something about helping companies scale their outbound. That's true, but it's also completely forgettable because every email that landed in the inbox this morning probably said the similar thing. Now remember what we did in the lead finder? We filtered for the companies that had just raised and the companies who were hiring. Now, I already know something real about this person. Instead, I will open with, saw you raised your Series A last month and you are hiring 3 SDRs. And that's not personalization just for the sake of it. That's actually the reason I'm emailing them. And it cost me nothing extra because the list already gave me that information. Then one line on what I do. One clear ask and I'm done. Short emails get replies. Long ones get read later. And later usually means never. Then I add the follow-ups. Step 2 goes out 3 days later and step 3 comes 4 days after that. And here's the thing about follow-ups. Most replies don't come after the first email. They come from the second and the third. Not because you wrote them down, but because you happen to catch them on the day they had 5 minutes. And you can also attach file to any of these if you've got a one-pager or a case study that's actually worth sending. Now this is where it gets a little smarter. You can branch the sequence based on what somebody actually did. So if they opened the email but did not reply, they get this message. If they clicked your link, they get something different because clicking tells me they were curious enough to have a look. And if they did nothing at all, they get the short nudge. So one list can turn into 3 different conversations depending on how each person behaves. And this next part really matters. The moment somebody replies, they stop getting the rest of the sequence. Because nothing kills a conversation faster than somebody saying, yes, let's talk, and then getting your automated follow-ups 2 days later. So make sure that's switched on. It is by default. And once the sequence works, you can just duplicate it and use it as a template for the next one. You can also pause it and pick it up back whenever you need it. Nothing is logged in, so the emails are written. Now let's make them feel like they were written for one person. So let's talk about merge text. If you have used any email tools before, you will probably recognize I type 2 curly braces and Saleshandy shows me everything it knows about that person. First name, company, job title, industry, and more. And because we enriched this list before in the chapter 1, there's a lot more here to work with. Anything custom you brought in through your own spreadsheet also shows up. So if you add a column for their tech stack or their funding round, now that's a merge tag as well. Now the next part is the one everybody forgets. And it gets genuinely embarrassing when it goes wrong. Set a fallback on every single tag. Because if one person on your list does not have a company name and you did not set a fallback, they could get an email that starts with, "Hi John, I saw that is hiring." And then the person is gone, all because you skipped 10 seconds of setup. So give every field a fallback, your team instead of company name, and it's done. Then there's spintax. All that means is that you write 2 or 3 versions of the phrases and Saleshandy picks one of them randomly for each send. So instead of sending 500 identical subject lines, you can get 500 with small variations. And why does it matter? Because identical bulk sending is the exactly kind of pattern spam filters are trained to look for. A bit of variation makes the email look like more what it's supposed to look like. A person writing an email. Then you have got variants, which is your A to Z testing. I can write numerous versions of step 1 with the same offer but a different angle, and the sending traffic gets split between 2 or 3 or 4 automatically. So after a few hundred sends, I'm not guessing. I can actually see which version gets more reply. Now, one quick word on what to test because you can just waste ridiculous amount of time here. Test your opening line and test your subject line. Those two do almost all of the work. Don't spend your time testing whether you sign off with best or thanks. Nobody in the history of business has taken a meeting because of a sign off. So the emails are ready. Now let's talk about how they go out because that matters just as much as what's inside them. So I'll attach the 9 mailboxes we set up earlier. And what happens now is rotation. Instead of one mailbox sending all 300 emails, all the 9 ones share the load. So each one sends around 30. So that was the whole reason we brought 3 domains instead of 1. No single account is doing anything that looks unusual. Then there's the interval between the sends. This puts a gap between each email so they trickle out instead of going in one big burst. And think about it from the provider's side. 200 emails all going out exactly 9 o'clock is obviously a machine. 200 emails spread across a morning looks much more like a person working through a list. Then you have got the daily cap for each account. Keep that conservative while the mailboxes are still new. You can raise it once they have been running for a while. There's no price for sending everything on day 1. Then there's the schedule. You choose which days to send between which hours. Weekdays 9 to 5 is the most sensible default. And be careful with anything that fires at 3 in the morning. The tool can obviously do it, but the timestamp alone can make the whole thing look like automated. You can also send based on your prospect's time zone instead of your own. So 9 in the morning means 9 in the morning for them, whether they are in London or California. You write it once and everyone gets it at a sensible hour. Now, Saleshandy is not just a cold email tool. Let me clear that up. So between email 1 and 2, I'm going to add a WhatsApp step. You email them on Tuesday and then on Wednesday, your name appears on the WhatsApp. Now you are not a complete stranger anymore. You are someone they have now seen twice. And that makes the third email land very differently. And then there's calling. Now that's where the Saleshandy dialer comes in. You can call right there instead of copying the numbers into another tool. And remember, we reveal those numbers back in the lead finder. This is where they finally get used. The dialer also has a local presence built in it, which means your call shows up with an area code they recognize. And that matters more than you think because most of the people simply don't answer a number they don't recognize. The numbers can rotate as well. So you are not hammering the same thing all day. And with voicemails drop, you can leave a pre-recorded message with one click instead of saying the same 40 seconds 200 times. Every call gets transcribed and summarized. So when you hang up, the notes are already there. No more trying to remember on Friday what somebody told you on Tuesday. Do not call lists are managed here too, which you'll need if you're calling into a regulated market. And none of it requires a second tool or a spreadsheet to keep track of. And that's what multi-channel really means. Not 4 campaigns running next to each other. It's one conversation that just happened to use 4 different doors. Now, not everything in outbound is an email that sends itself. Some steps need you. Maybe it's making a call, sending a connection request, or doing something specific for a particular account. Those becomes tasks and they show up here with a date attached. Then you just need to work through them. Mark it done, snooze it until tomorrow, or skip it entirely. You can do all of them in bulk, which really matters on a Monday morning when 34 tasks are waiting for you. Then you have got outcomes. After a call, you log what actually happened. And this is the part that turns activity into something that you can learn from. Because we made 200 calls doesn't really tell you anything. But 200 calls, 30 conversations, and 9 meetings tells you everything. Saleshandy scores your sequences before you send it. And this is just not a vanity number. It looks at the things that actually gets campaigns into trouble. For example, spam triggers in your copy. It flags words and phrases that filters tend to be suspicious of, and you can just swap them out. Usually it's something you did not even think twice before writing. Free, guarantee, 3 exclamation marks. Then send yourself a test and actually open it. Look at it at your phone, not on your laptop, because that's where the lot of people are going to open it. Check the merge tags filled in correctly, make sure your fallbacks work, check that the links go where you expect them to. That's the 30 seconds of work, and it can save you a very awkward morning. And then you have got suppression, which is your do not contact list. You can block individual addresses or entire domains, and for existing customers or anyone who already told no, blocking the whole domain is usually what you want. You can also search across your list to check whether someone is already on there before you send anything. Unsubscribes are handled automatically. If somebody opts out, they are out, and they stay out across everything you run. And that's not just good manners. In most of the places you are sending into, it's also the law. Then there's verification. Anything you reveal inside Saleshandy is already verified because that happened back in the lead finder when you clicked reveal. But there's also a standalone verifier there, and that's useful for everything else. Maybe it's a list you bought, a list somebody handed you, or an old export sitting in a folder. You can run that list through the verifier before sending it, and Saleshandy sorts the result into categories. Valid means they are safe to send. Invalid means you should drop them because they will bounce. And it's worthy doing because bounces are one of the fastest ways to damage a domain reputation you're just paid for. As a rule of thumb, you want your bounce rates under 2%. Once you go beyond that, providers can start treating your sending differently. So 20 minutes of verification upfront is a lot better than spending 3 weeks trying to recover a domain deliverability. And that's our checklist. The score looks healthy, there are no obvious spam triggers in the copy, the test email opened correctly on the phone, and the suppression list is in place, and every address is verified. Now we can launch. So here we go. I switch it on, and in the first hour, not much visibly happens, which is exactly right. The campaign is respecting the interval, the daily caps, and the schedule. It's supposed to look unhurried. Now here's the part that saves you most time day to day, the unified inbox. 9 mailboxes, one screen, and every reply gets read and sorted for you. Interested, not interested, out of office, referral, which means somebody is pointing you to the right person. And not now, which is the one people try to throw away but really should not. So when you open your inbox, the interested replies are already sitting at the top. You're not scrolling through 40 out-of-office messages just to find out 2 that matter the most. Bounces get caught and handled automatically too. And if Saleshandy spots a pattern it doesn't like, it can protect your sending before you can even notice. And you can reply right there. You get the full thread as you can see exactly what you sent and when. And there's a Kanban view as well. Instead of looking at a list of replies, you get a board with a column for each stage. Every lead sits as a card in one of those columns. As a conversation moves forward, you drag the card across. Interested, in conversation, meeting booked. That way you can see the whole pipeline on one screen, including how many leads are sitting at each stage and where things are getting stuck. The list tells you what came in today, and the board tells you what's actually in play. So now let's see what actually happened. You've got sent, opened, clicked, replied, bounced, and positive replies. Everything on one dashboard at one time. And if you're running multiple sequences, you can also have a look at everything together. You can also go one level deeper. Which step got the replies? Which variant beat the other one? Then you can look at each mailbox individually, so you can see if one account is behaving differently from another. Now, rather than walking through every number there, let me show you how to actually read the data. Now, have a look at this. The open rate is fine, around 40%, but the reply rate is almost nothing. So what does that tell you? The subject line is doing its job because people are opening the email. The problem is inside it. Now, flip that around. If almost nobody opened the email in the first place, don't touch the body copy. That's a subject line problem or possibly a deliverability problem. Find the first number that's wrong and fix only that one. Because if you change 5 things at the same time and the results improve, you have learned absolutely nothing about which change actually did the work. Quick one here. If you are running a CRM, Saleshandy syncs natively with HubSpot, Salesforce, Zoho, and Pipedrive. So when somebody replies and that turns into a real opportunity, it lands in your CRM without you copying anything over manually. And if your CRM is not one of those four, then there's Zapier, which covers most of the setups. And you have got webhooks if you want to build something more specific. For the technical folks watching, there's also an MCP server and a command line tool. So you can just drive Saleshandy from your own scripts or from your own AI agent. So the client management gives you client their own workspace. Their leads, sequences, mailboxes all stay separate from each other. You add a client and you are in. And then you can switch between clients from right there. You can also white label the whole thing. Your own domain, your own logo, and analytics reports that go out under your branding instead of ours. So from your client's perspective, this looks like your platform. Team members are unlimited and email accounts are unlimited across your clients. And that's worth thinking about for a second because it changes the maths completely. With a per seat tool, every new client, every new inbox costs you more. So your margins get thinner the more you grow, which is a strange way to run a business. Here, that's not how it works. You don't pay extra just because you added your 11th client. And then there's compliance, which your clients will absolutely ask. GDPR, SOC 2, Type 2, and ISO 27001. If you're handling client data, those are usually the three answers procurement wants to hear. Let's look back at what we actually did here. We started with nothing. We built a list of 300 verified people who fit exactly who we sell to. Then we bought the domain, set up the mailboxes, and had the authentication handled for us. We warmed them up, built a sequence, and personalized it at scale. Then we added email, calls, and WhatsApp into the same cadence, launched the campaign, and managed the replies from one place, one inbox, one platform. One afternoon of setup with 2 weeks of warm-up running quietly in the background while you got with everything else. There's a link below to start your trial. 7 days, no card. And if you've got questions, leave them in the comments. I do read them. Thank you for watching.